O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love. With hearts we see Christ, the true Lord, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on God for thee. God keep our land, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on God for thee. O Canada, we stand on God for thee.
We welcome you to Georgetown, Texas, and more specifically, the campus of Southwestern University, where we play Game 2 in the Men's World Floorball Championships America's qualification for 2026. Trent Blank alongside Brian Radical here this evening. Canada out to a 1-0 series lead after a 13-1 victory over the Americans yesterday. Brian, what are some things the Americans could do better today to make sure and keep it closer?
The biggest thing they've got to do is take care of them. There was a lot of turnovers in transition, a lot of missed opportunities in transition to take care of them. Canada exhibited better passing, better physicality, and better ball movement. The U.S. is going to have to step up on all accounts to make sure this is a competitive match last night. But as you said last night, it's just one game. Margin doesn't matter. It's three games. They can still win 2 in advance.
It's a best-of-3 series, and one thing I learned from watching the game footage yesterday, the Americans very physical along the boards, but in talking to the coaching staff, they want them to be a little bit more physical on the interior. Meanwhile, for the Canadians, not a whole lot you could say they could improve upon coming into today. All 3 of their lines were effective. All 3 of their lines scored. For the Canadians, what are some of their keys to tonight's game?
I think Canada's keys tonight are going to be to do what they did before. Take care of the ball, get to the goalie early. Got Van Patten in net. Young man, first time starting for the men's team. It's going to be a big test for him to step up and face this Canadian offense tonight. But on the defense, cut the passing lanes, get in front of the ball, force the ball to the sides, and try to keep them out of the slot. A lot of Canadian goals last night came up the middle on shots or rebounds. And it's going to be up to the defense to keep them off of Van Patten tonight.
And for the Canadians, when you talk about blocking shots, that was another thing you noticed last night from watching that game, Phil. The Canadians were in a lot of shooting lanes and consistently in shooting lanes. Certainly credit to them for that, but they were able to get some of those transitions coming off of block shots, and that's pretty common in floorball. They always say 3/4 of the goals are scored in the transition game.
A good example last night was the one throw out that the goalie had, the country had last night, right? In late in the second, early in the third, I don't remember what it was, but there was a quick shot, Johnson controlled it, one bounce throw out, quick pass up, goal. Those are the kind of transition and counterattacks that you have to be ready to go the other way. That's floorball, and that's the speed game.
Now, there are some lineup changes for the Americans. They've shuffled up lines. They've even shuffled up positions, which is a little bit more rare in floorball. Meanwhile, the Canadians bringing out their same first line that started the game. No changes for Canada. You didn't expect many after a 12-goal win. But for the Americans, you have David Hansen moving back to defense alongside Lucas Paquelin. And then Ollie Parent and Isaac Angerstig moving up to the top line to play with Landon Van Patten, who was last night's goal scorer.
Well, I think one of the things you got to remember is the U.S. has undergone a new transition of both management and bringing in more U19 players. This is a new direction for the U.S. It's going to take a couple of times to get it right. It's going to take a couple of efforts. So in some ways, it's try different things and see what's worked best. unfortunately, there's not a lot of opportunity to play this kind of level otherwise. So here we go, game 2.
Hakalane will go into the center circle, if there were a center circle painted here, and Valtteri Vitakowski wins the draw for Canada. Canada won the lion's share of the faceoffs last night, and it's important to note because faceoffs oftentimes dictate who has possession not only, but who is on the front foot to start the game. And a quick tip inside by Vitakowski, and I'm not sure if Van Patten got a piece of it or if that tip just went wide. Tough to tell from our angle. This first line did most of the damage for Team Canada last night. It's Justin Knight handling back to the point, and Vitakowski with it. Brendan Barber's shot blocked down by David Hansen, and that's one of the things he brings to Team USA, moving him back to D. He is a very good and very effective shot blocker.
Yeah, it's one of the things that David does well in Switzerland, where he's from. He blocks shots, he finds those passing lanes, gets a stick out, gets a leg out, goes down on one knee. So we're going to see a lot more of this play from the U.S. Create chances. Last night, didn't keep up with leading the tempo. Today is something that we think speed.
The second line for the Americans gives us a chance to talk about the changes on this line. Ian Meyer moves from defense to forward. Derek Drozier, who was on the third line last night, we mentioned he had 6 block shots in that game, ends up as the D on the second line next to Reed Hearns. Meanwhile, Keen Addington and Case Connor move up to the second line from the third line that was fairly effective in last night's game. Hearns picks the ball up off the back of the net. Now we'll start the fast break, feeds back to Mosier. Far wing, it goes to Case Connor. So everyone on this line getting their first touches of the game. And for the second for the Americans, they had the better of the ball in this last minute. And a nice cross-court pass from Mosier, finding Connor on the back door. And an even nicer helmet save by Christoph Kasha, the first time he's been tested tonight.
Those are the kind of long passes. Stand up on the line. The Americans penetrating a great forward.
Third line for the Canadians out there. Huntsberger pitches it off to the far wing. Sight of the captain, Tristan Walsh, for this Canadian national team, will exchange with Stuart Bowden. He's hounded by Caleb Letterman. Letterman, a physical player, even though he's not very big, and that's one of the reasons why he was elevated from effectively a reserve player on the roster to being on the third line here. And then Nico Vahavane is now a winger or a center, pardon me, on this line. He's typically been a defender for the U.S. team. A quick shot from near side Mahoney and a save by Ethan Van Patten. Scoops up the rebound and will feed it to David Hansen. Plus, will roll just 2 defensive pairs to start this game. And as the game progresses, they may mix in. Daniel Hansen is feeling a bit under the weather. Slight lower body injury after last night's game, after he played so well. That's one of the reasons he got the rest in the third period. So he's on the bench. He's ready to go tonight if needed, but they're starting him out in warm-ups.
It's going to be interesting to see what the U.S. team here. The U.S. team both now and early. We're going to have a reface them.
The official was pretty quick with the whistle there, saying, like, hey, we're going to redo this draw. They'll bring in Justin Knight once again with Landon Van Patten. Early whistle, but the players don't go. Now they do. And then Van Patten's shot goes wide. Ollie Parent runs down the rebound to the near side. Mosier reverses to Reed Hearns. Hearns in the slot, high slot for Angerstick. That shot blocked by the stick of Vitakowski. Mosier pushes a pass wide of the cage. Landon Van Patten working there against Knight. Those two players get tied up. Advantage going to Canada. Barber in the slot area. Fields shot and knocked down by the torso of Ethan Van Patten. He rotates his chest over to get a piece of that shot. His second save of the game. Ethan Van Patten getting the start tonight. Put up a 895 save percentage in last night's game. 2 goals on 19 shots. And that's a pretty high save percentage for floorball. As we talked about last night, it comes down to the high danger versus low danger opportunities. He did that with a lot of high danger chances.
That he did, and there's back post defense problems, right? The U.S. has been facing back post defense challenges all weekend so far. That's just defense has to get back and cover that. It's a great pass by the Canadians and an open net. There's nothing a goalie can do about that.
And we're talking about high danger chances. That goal from Lumiala, the definition of a high danger chance on the diagonal pass across the crease. And once again, as we've seen, whether it's Sebastian Stockley or Ethan Van Patten, not a whole lot the keeper can do in those type of situations. It's more on the defender to cut down that backside pass.
100%.
Face off between Connor and Grenapin. It's won by Case Connor. The U.S. had a face-off competition in practice earlier today, and that's kind of determined who is taking face-offs now on each line. Hansen to Meyer. Up along the far boards. Paquelin gives to Connor, settles it to Hansen. One touch to Addington. Addington sweeps through the high slot area, goes to the far side. Connor dishes it back to Paquelin. Much better possession thus far this evening for the U.S., even though they're down 1-0. So far from these line combinations, you have to think the coaching staff likes what they're bringing to the table.
Yes. So,
See Kitefield, Wallace scoring and making changes to the lineup. And so far, the score, 1-0 Canada. Canada front end. Possession here. Jetta passing it to Grenapin. Grenapin pounded by Paquelin, and Paquelin, a little too much body contact there to be a free hit to the Canadians. Matt Smith stands over it, wanted to take it quickly, but didn't have his charges in the correct spots. So he waited, and then his pass ended up being knocked out by David Hansen. So another free hit to the Canadians, this time on the near dot. Grenapin up top, Jetta, playing it back to Grenapin. On to Jetta. Grenapin, honored before the game. Last night was his 50th game internationally, playing for the Canadians. He's a graduate of the U19 program. Played, of course, in the U19 World Championships that were hosted in Canada. Letterman called aggressive contact on the far wing.
the impressive thing for that is games is written. If you think about 3 games of qualifier and 4 games of the world, that's impressive. That's 67 cycles. So that's 14 years on the national teams.
And of course, sprinkling in the World Games as well.
Correct.
We'll add to that, but still impressive nonetheless. Stick infraction against the Canadians, and the Americans earn their own free hit. They'll take possession for 13:30 remaining in the first period. That pass a little bit too far for Hearns to handle. It's intercepted by Tristan Walsh. Picks it back up top. Running with it is Hunsberger. Puts it into the far corner for James Daly. Daly had a goal off a rebound last night for Team Canada. A shot from the point from Walsh, stopped and directed to the corner by Ethan Van Patten. Moser off the boards with it, looking for Bahabahe.
This has to not play this like a penalty kill. They need to spread out and get out on defense, not just stay in the box.
And we turned over to Mahoney. Mahoney's shot grabbed by Ethan Van Patten. And now the Americans take over once again. Canada already shooting with more volume than they did in the first 7 minutes last night's game. Shooting regularly from all angles, not just the backdoor opportunities. Lumiala driving through center. Lumiala now behind the American net. Pops it out in front. Ethan Van Patten got a hand on it, but it's recycled by the Canadians. Everyone jostling for position, and it ends with Canada taking the ball in their defensive end. There comes Vitakowski. Vitakowski's pass intercepted by Engerstig and Parent, but he gets it back. Vitakowski's shot wide of the far post. Hearns takes the rebound, countered by Knight, and he's come down from his defensive position. Now he's got 2 Canadian forecheckers on him, and this shot hard off the bar from Brendan Barber, last night's player of the game for the Canadians. Hearns puts it off a Canadian body and out of bounds. Over the wall, it'll go to the Americans.
The Canadians were really pressing down as well, right? So, I mean, you saw a position where Hearns got the ball in the corner. 2 Canadians on him just like that, pressing down. The Canadians can continue to track the U.S. in the corner or behind that. Just start forcing fair action and take the ball.
There are certain circumstances where the Canadians have had 3 players
And here
back
comes
behind the American defensive net on the forecheck, and now a penalty. This is going to be a stick infraction as Vitakowski was in a scoring position, and that's what warrants the 2-minute infraction versus just a free hit. As Vitakowski was in clear danger of scoring against the Americans, and now the Canadians will get a free hit to begin this power play in a dangerous position right at the edge of the goalkeeper area. Matt Smith is getting direction from the officiating crew where exactly to place this free hit. Again, a look at the Canadian power play, who is 1 for 1 an evening ago. Smith standing over it, Friedley behind him. Smith feeds it to Vitakowski, who scores, and the Canadians needed just 1 second to fire home a power play goal and make the score 2-0.
set pieces are hard, man. You have to set up. You have to know that's obviously a clearly pre-done set piece set up by the Canadians. Set piece right there, you can't give them. It just schemes for.
It's difficult on the box play to play devil's advocate here. You're 4 against their 5, and the Canadians have 3 of their better shooters out there, and their best assist guy and Matty Smith standing over the ball, of course. But you're right, Brian. It was somewhat startling to see that they didn't have anyone manned up on Vitakowski in that situation, knowing that he is one of the players with the quick trigger for the Canadians. U.S. wins the ensuing faceoff. They'll begin this stint with possession. Meyer runs into Derek Mosier. Now the ball is near the head of Ian Meyer, and Meyer goes down, and he is holding his abdomen.
I think he got strike by one. It's more. Very easy, and I saw it on football. And that's a win not gotten the same question round.
Oren and helps him to his feet and onto the American bench. Canada will begin with the free hit from center. And Matty Smith's going to put it deep. That's what they call fair floor ball, Brian. Gentlemen's face-off, so to speak.
Yeah, the things I love about them. These guys are the fiercest drivers, fiercest behavior. A ton of gentlemen.
3-on-2 coming back the other way. Great job by Mosier to break it up, and now Letterman wants to pitch it deep. That was dangerously close to a high stick by Matt Smith as he knocked down the pass. Now Grenapin comes away with it, driving through. He's angled to the corner by Mosier, and now Hearns is able to knock it away from Grenapin, turns against Grenapin, who's still hard on that forecheck, has men behind the net, but he will earn a free hit nonetheless. Mosier and Vahavai were both calling for the ball, but I think Hearns was embroiled in that battle and probably didn't have the leverage to get the ball back behind the net. It's a free hit for the Americans.
You're also seeing a lot of blue see a lot of appearance for the spoken style. He played pressure.
Akalen was only at the stick through center. Plays it to the far side. He thought Akalen was going to follow him up through there. Instead, the ball ends up falling to Reed Hunsberger. It's a free hit. The Canadians wanted 2 minutes, and their coach, Ilo Romo, is out there pleading for it. We've got 2 Finnish head coaches battling against one another here. Instead, the Canadians get a free hit. The Americans have to defend another set piece, and this time it's Vitakowski standing over it. He'll yield to Justin Knight. Knight triggers it in, and Lumiala on the sweep, but this is called dead for interference or obstruction, as it's known in floorball. And that's something you also see quite a bit on set pieces, is kind of those picks which are not generally allowed in the official on top of it.
Yeah, it's really important. Very few sports that I like. And I'm really indicates the floorball.
We talked during last night's broadcast about how communicative they have been, and they were communicative again there between Lumiala and Parent as they battled for the loose ball. Vitakowski spins it to Barber up top left side, and now back to the high point, Justin Knight. Vitakowski looks inside. Interior pass for Lumiala. Deflects off of his stick. Comes back to Barber. And Vitakowski's
setting into more of a standard offense. Here's a chance.
Vitakowski gets in on Parent, and Parent wanted a stick check. The official says it was clean. And as a result, a very good back-checking play by Valtteri Vitakowski. But Oliver Parent, you see exactly why he has been elevated to this top line for the Americans, creating that potential scoring case. This shot to place. Out. And Matt Smith thought it was off of an American stick. Instead, it'll be a U.S. free hit. Burns bringing it up. 2-0 the score. The Canadians have one even strength goal. And power play goal scored by Terry Vitakowski. The even strength goal scored by Lumiala. Burns trying to get rid of the ball with Renapin breathing down his net. Burns able to navigate away from a few players. Spells out Ian Meyer on a partial break, but it bounces over his stick. Renapin comes in to shoot, and it's blocked well out by Ray Burns.
A great example of transition play and how fast Canada turns looks back in play.
Friedley waved at by Keen Addington. Now pushes it back to D. Jetta inside for Smith. Knocked down by Kashino. Now it comes to Mosier. Puts it deep for Connor. Connor in front looking for Meyer. But a great job breaking it up by Jetta.
Great opportunity for the Americans. And Pat, easy back the other way. And we're going to get it blocked in the direction at Mosier here, right into the side.
Grenapine was trying to shake off Mosier using the goal as the free hit. Essentially, that is not legal as it is whistled down. American free hit. Teams get wholesale changes. Forward line back out for the Americans with Hansen back out defensively. Hansen steers it to Bahavahai. Letterman puts it in front. Keskamala looking over his right shoulder. Now picks it up over his left shoulder on the boards. Letterman inside. Looks for it. And it's Kasha with it underneath. And Kasha checked behind him. And we see once again why Keskamala and Letterman stay in this rotation for the Americans. They're two pesky young players, both U19 graduates.
That's a great heads up play. Get slick on the ball at that point. Here's a good quick pass the other way.
Keskamala, I talked to him a little bit after the game last night, and he said the main thing he wants to do is try to play with a little speed, and you saw that little dump and chase there. He has good confidence that he could beat players to the ball. He's actually a very highly regarded tennis player here in Texas. You ask him what's his top sport, tennis or floorball, he says he's good at both.
Right now, he's looking very good. He's really playing a lot. Spread out some space and some plus would have been a different thing. So the tendency to put 4 or 5 in that box and there's too many.
This pass inside. Barber looking for Alex Field. It's poked away. Parent tried to go away on a break. Instead, it was stolen right back by the Canadians. Vitakowski's shot off the stick of Burns and out. And we've seen the Canadians now start to tighten up their rotation. They're right now only rotating 2 lines. They started with a 3-line rotation and have shelved that a little bit, perhaps in response to the Americans just rotating 3 lines to 2 lines. Lumiala shot blocked by Parent. Here's Landon Van Patten. He'll calm things down by feeding back to Hearns.
Good patience by Van Patten for such a young man to be able to sit back and say there's nothing there. So let's look at it and reset.
Second one for the Americans. Connor goes deep. Addington gets it from Meyer. Addington's shot is off the heel of his stick. Case Connor, you could hear him call for that as he had position inside. That spinning shot from Vitakowski knocked down by Ethan Van Patten. Van Patten's throw to Addington. Great job by Justin Knight using his body to shield the ball away from the much taller, much rangier Keen Addington, the fourth.
Referee's all over the top of the contact there after the play. In front of it quickly, not letting anything build up or develop. Again, the gentleman's game doesn't stop the fierce components between teams. Field
Then Smith. Canadians would play from the back, often trying to build things up. It's Wheatley that's deep and behind the cage of Van Patten currently. Smith sets forward Kashino. Looks inside. Here's the shot from Smith. He doesn't shoot very often. And yeah, it will be a crease violation against Friedley. You know, Friedley, one thing we noted in last night's game, we felt like he could have been our player of the game. Well, he had 3 goals and 1 assist, but he is such a pesky player. And when you have a tall guy that's a pesky player, it makes it even more difficult to play against.
Yeah, the reach is insane. They have that kind of reach. It's funny you can't feel it from you guys, but thinking something like that.
Kashino walks it up. Brennepen. Jetta. Brennepen. It's calmer play from this Canadian second line now. Content to once again build up. Take shots from angles. This ball stolen away from Matt Smith by David Hansen. He'll pitch it high for Pakalayan off the boards to Connor. And the Americans want to run. Connor finds Meyer. Meyer has it spin over the top of his stick. He wanted a sweep shot. Won't get it, but he'll be content to set things up from behind the net. Meyer plays to Bahabat.
Good opportunity there for the Americans. Some unfortunate bouncing the ball. And so the shot was there, the opportunity was there. He's couldn't get it done.
The defensive end pitches it back to Hearns. Now on to Derek and Woodard. Those 3 will play in a bit of a triangle here. Hearns on to Mosier. Quick movement for the American forwards. Mosier content to hold it and now feed it back to Hearns. Once again, Mosier trying to draw traffic to him with that ball handling and then kick it out. And they're looking for the ball to go down one of the wings. This time they'll get it to Keskamala. Keskamala looks inside for Letterman. It's stolen away by Kashino. Kashino's in on a 3-on-2 break. The Canadians wanted to hold so they can get a partial change in. And now we see the third line take another shift for the Canadians. We didn't see them in a little bit, at least.
It was a great pass in the anticipation. Instead of taking it away, and just waiting to see which way we can go.
This ball into the crease for Walsh, coming from the near side. And Patrick Mahoney, who had 2 assists in last night's game, playing on both the third line and the power play as well. The Americans will get a full change. They'll bring their first line back out. 3:48 in the first period. 2-0 the score. And folks, if this is your first game of the America's qualification change qualifier, Canada won 13-1 last night. So while there are no moral victories, and the U.S. needs a game, needs to win tonight in order to stay in the series, falls like a weird hop to back a land. Van Patten able to recover it to Angerstig. Angerstig is waved at by 2 Canadian players, but he's able to calm things down by getting it to Van Patten and they'll reset. But point being, even though the Americans need to win this game, they can take part in the fact that this is so much closer than it was a night ago, where at this point in the game, it was already 5-0.
Yeah, I think you look at this, you've got 2 things at work. The Americans are a lot more deliberate, a lot more taking care of better passes, better setup. Canada content to run the team. They've got a 2-goal lead. They don't need this one. They've got tomorrow.
David Hansen the steal. Hansen through a couple of defenders, pinches in, plays it to Parent. Parent checks, sees Pakalayan up top. That shot wide of the net. Rebound handled well by Justin Knight. And now it's Vitakowski in on a 2-on-1. Tries to kick it up over the outstretched arm of Ethan Van Patten and puts it wide. Pakalayan back there battling against the 2 Canadian goalkeepers. Vitakowski and little wings it. Vitakowski out in front. Wilt spins with it. Now they'll settle down to Justin. Back to field, looks across, fires a shot that's blocked by Hansen. Vitakowski resets. Right up top. Now Bartlett. Right on shot against it's it back now, thinks about a shot again, and Pakalayan says, "No way, sir." And recovers the rebound out. Flips it on to Hansen in the rear. And the U.S. will get a change on the ball. like his two veterans of the begin playing like in Wisconsin. This ball turned over by Myers and Renapine who scores.
The tough one. That spread out of offense when you turn it over and stop like that. That's a tough situation with any goalie. Takes a good look, punch it right where he wants it on the net, and it takes 3 up.
Renapine was just there, lying in wait, lying in the weeds. For the Americans, they were trying to slowly build up play, get a little bit of forward movement. Unfortunately for them, it results in a turnover to Renapin's stick. He scores his third goal. Fire. 3-0 Canada. 1:35 remaining in the first period. And now for the Americans, task perhaps a little bit different than when it was 2-0. You need now a very good shift and a half to close out the last 90 seconds of the first period. For the Canadians, they got a goal in last night's first period. We'll try to replicate those efforts as they trot out their first line. Cross from Barber. Tic-tac-toe, field going to Vidakovsky. Vidakovsky waved that one back the lane. And now David Henson brings Vidakovsky down, tops him up once again, and it did a fair sportsmanship there. Nothing to that collision, really. It's enough to draw an infraction, but not enough to draw a 2-minute. Barber plays it short. Tipped out of bounds.
Yeah, it looks like they need to sit back. Here you go.
Typically, the rule of thumb is now with the Canadians having pushed against the third forward for the Americans, maybe they'll change and they'll try and strike quickly. The but Barber pops off of the foot of Henson into the hands of Pat. 3 seconds remaining in the period. Escamala in the far corner. Knight once again winning the board battle. He's been everywhere defensively for the Canadians. Knight has the ball knocked away by Bob. Now the ball tips free once again. The Americans now change on the ball. Trying to get their line back out there to finish the last 20 seconds of the first period. Bit of a chess match as far as the Lions are concerned. Of the last 90 seconds. Hanson now with 15 seconds left. Here, assistant coach Nick Van from the bench. Angerstein up into the middle. Attempts the shot. 5 seconds still. Angerstein trying to feel off the shot. Won't get it. It's Lumiala and Vidakovsky combined to stop it and shut it down. 3-0 Canada at the end of one period of play. I think the Canadians played a nice, tidy period. Perhaps you would say the best opportunities came from the breakaway from Willie Parrott, shut down by Vidakovsky, and the ball on the doorstep from Caleb Letterman that ended up somewhere in Christoph Pasha's goalie here. And meanwhile, for the Canadians, like I said, very tidy, not a lot of turnovers. They did give the Americans a whole lot of quick period.
Definite improvement for the Americans from last week, however. There's significant improvement in play and ball control. Long way to go, but it's not like where it looked like they were unsure of themselves. There were a lot of missed passes last night where some of the player to be that again, like not nearly to the extent. We had the bad pass right at the end, which was really too far too far ahead. And David had just jumps on this way. So a couple of mistakes, much better period of
Again, 3-0 Canada. The United States down 1-0 in the series. It's a best of 2 series. They have to win tonight to salvage an opportunity to go to the Floorball Championships. And they play tomorrow, regardless of the outcome. The Americans hope they'll still be in it by the time tomorrow comes around. We'll take a break for the period. Brian and I will be back in about 10 minutes to set you up for the second period. You're watching the Men's World 2026 America's Qualification from Georgetown, Texas. We welcome you back to Georgetown, Texas, the campus of Southwestern University, as the Corbin J. Robertson Center plays host to the second game of the Men's World Floorball Championships 2026 America's qualification. Right now, the score 3-0 Canada. The Canadians wearing their home red jerseys with black pants. The Americans in their road. Brian, better period in the first period than we've seen so far in this qualification from the Americans. The Canadians, though, I think they're going to make some adjustments as well. They're happy with where they're at, up 3-0, but I think their coaching staff wants a little bit more from them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a world championship qualifier, right? There is no slowing down. There is no sitting. While there is from the Canadians, there is no. The U.S. has to get on the board this period and really needs to do it early.
So 3-0 the score. Hakalane will take the face-off against Witkowski. And one of the things I mentioned is the home versus road jerseys. So in this series, the home jerseys are the dark jerseys, but it matters because the face-off selection. The speed of football, the road team gets to choose the side that your stick is on for the face-off. Hakalane able to use that and win that draw. U.S. has won, I would say, probably 75% of the faceoffs so far in this contest. A shot from Landon Van Batten at 15 seconds in. The Americans have one of their better chances of the game after a nice forecheck from Ollie Parent. Parent digs in against Witkowski, who wins the ball. Witkowski shot scored! Wow. This is exactly why he is such a decorated player for the Canadians. He made that all look very easy.
Yeah, I mean, just like that, you just said, and you were right. We have a better chance to see the Americans right there on the gate. And it's coast to coast the other way. Shot over Van Batten's shoulder. Just right precisely in the left. He got screened on it, but by and large, he's just a great.
I don't think it matters if you get screened or not if you're a keeper there, unless you're just betting on the top left corner. There's no way the keeper is getting there.
But he can't come that far out that early. And he comes out too early, back corner is wide line.
Exactly. That's a tough situation for a keeper, and you've got a player that talented bearing down on you from the left side. That's something the Canadians talked about during the intermission. They wanted to use the left side a little bit more. Wanted to test out the left side a little bit more. And Witkowski does just that for the first Canadian of the game. Isaac Casino sets the table. This line has been altered for the Americans. It's their second time. Papa comes up to the second. Playing this and they're big on the second. Now on the bench, they back down the D. Sorry,
Great block hard. But it's the bottom. Three lines down, needed.
Smith turns with it for the Canadians, gets tied up by Hearns. Those two have had many a battle over their professional careers. They go on it to nail.
So you have with trying to go down the strand. Great for far felt with
An excellent turnout. You knew the Thursday crowd would possibly be a little bit sparse. A decent distance from Halstead and being all of that. A beautiful tip inside. The pass from Stuart Bowden off the stick. Patrick Mahoney. Mahoney, who had 3 assists coming into this period, now has his first goal of the.
That's a tough bounce when that happens. Things happen. Things happen.
Mahoney, one of the things he's been pretty good at to the time that played against him is the volley in front. And those volleys are so good to defend against if you're even Van Batten. Because again, you're seeing that as a potential shot coming in rather than a redirect. For 5-0, and really that's their first goal since their first goal that's come on a diagonal pass of that. Sure, everything else is still right. Seconds. So they get 2 quick goals to start out the second period. Interior pass for the Canadians. It's turned around. Witkowski's shot is either blocked by Hearns or saved by Ethan Van Patten. Hearns working hard on the near first post-speed. Free hit ball to the Canadians. Turns playing physical. Puts it inside, a tip on page from Alex Field, and that's stopped by Ethan Van Patten. Now Hearns dishes off to Connor. Connor looks inside for Keenan. Sits down with his stick. Collecting as Lumiala. Lumiala turns it over. Connor with it. Connor diving in against 9. Able to win that battle. There's Lumiala's shot. It's stopped by Anthony. And rebound. Hearns leaves it over to Woodrow. Team on the ball. Chris Hansen coming. Take it to the bench. Simply. Still, it's briefly to the far away. So, that's a Hansen. Oh, there's on Hansen. For Van Patten, oh, behind the back with the pass. Renepin saw it coming. Renepin great infant people. So was a goal in this game off of an interception. To intercept that center and pass and now handing over possessions. Second for Canada. See Casino lines up, leads it back to Spain off of this. Jetta. Casino, Jetta, one touch pass forward. Fire. Jetta. Renison. Back to Smith. Leads to Casino. Casino's cross-court pass deflected over the hip of Steve. Run down and pass it. Casino looking Freebie. Up this week. Now asking he could be. This time he's blocked. Flag on move with and the Canadians win that battle. Brenepin comes out of it. Brenepin spinning. Brenepin back behind the net. Paquelin goes shoulder to shoulder with him. Brenepin Smith on the tip of his stick and bounces in the top of his place. Paquelin is running to win the point. Comes down to Brenepin. Brenepin kicks in front. One of the deflection for Freebie, but it was shut down well by Hansen. Now Casino's behind the back pass, bounces around, Brenepin's shot, and a great save by Ethan Van Patten. Lost it as he went to grab it out of his jersey. That can happen from time to time. A break from Ben to only Perrins, and Parent put it high of the cage. And Perrins and Kasha checking with one another. The Canadians thought there was malicious intent, but both Kasha and Parent knew that there was no malicious intent intended. Kasha, besides, was out of the goaltender area, the goalkeeper area. The goalkeeper area is that internal square. The goalkeeper crease is the external square. The keeper can touch it as long as a part of his body is touching the crease, but only is the protected really inside that crease. Goalkeepers like what? First, two players check having other in a show of all of that is to say, as possession, to look out their third line out against the Americans. Second look, Ben shuts down and attempting the mounting as he was spinning from the surveillance. Canada backs off their chip a little bit, but now Daly goes in on the hard. Second near wing, here's Mosen. Looks deep. Now will continue to run with the ball. He's tripped up, no call. And the Canadians come back with it. We'll say incidental contact there. Walsh's shot knocked down by the left-handed Ethan Van Patten. Well, Van Patten was picked up for strictly job passes. There haven't been a lot of second opportunities for the Canadians. Parent looking inside with the centering feed, didn't have any momentum at that time because the Americans were in the midst of a change. Lumiala is pestered only. Speaking of other this Charlie, some of the national anthems tonight. And it was Charlie for almost a decade. Had no idea he could do that. Zero idea he could sing. And he did an excellent job. This proud father-son moment there. And Ollie's older brother, Ryden, was a part of the U19 program as well. His younger brother, Tice, is here at a U19 camp this weekend. Then Pat set forth for parent. It's knocked away by 9. They go in for a third battle, and Kasha grabs it as a loose ball cannon. And honestly, Brian, I've talked about it quickly, but we haven't had a chance to discuss it. The defensive play trusted has been far excellent. And the way he uses his body condition, it seems like he comes out of with the ball and possession. It's a question of being position and solution. It was moving. He's one of those players that just a lion's share of his work fires. Fine. I don't think he gets enough recognition for what he does for the Canadians. But at this point, if you force me to pick a player of the game for Canada, Justin Knight would be my pick. The Americans, their second line, as they've gone down to just a rotation right now, trying to chip back into this game down 5-5. And needed this in order to stay with this 3-game series. It's high and right of the gate. Also, Derek Rozier last week. To Moses. It's too far for him to handle. Casino wants to break that. Looks inside briefly as they've had Ethan Van Patten down. Unable to handle it. It's Freaky off of the pass from Grenapin. And now this is going to be a one here is they're going to say Ethan made contact with Grenapin. Like it turns for they're a little bit. But I think Burns was the guy who made contact. Contact to sit down with them. I don't know who they've got. Without the replay, it's tough to see. That honestly looks like it was it would have been a good standards. Grenapin, certainly Grenapin is okay. Yeah, it's so good defense position. Particularly, hate to see that. We just talked about him getting his 50th international game in for Team Canada. So you hope that here in game number 51, he has not suffered any kind of an injury to keep him out for any kind of time. I hope the team this will be, again, I'm being involved and I'm going to be clear about it. But it seemed like Northern Texas made him taken in by Hearns. Hearns was running side by side and it's got crossing into their path a little bit. The guns for the penalties. Ollie Parent on the field. The Canadians take it right back here straightly on the Smith. So, Loki shot blocked by 2 Americans, both Parent and Angerstig, and the Americans get to set box play. This is one of the changes the Americans made. They went to a beautiful block on the back door by David Hanson, but they went to a 2-1-1 box play to attempt to defend the Canadians' passes a little bit, to maybe create a little bit of havoc out there. Hanson pops it on the bit of that edge. Fit by Smith. Here's down by Stig. Here's Parent. Parent looks over on Friedley. Angerstig takes the ball away. Here's Parent. Parent is taken down from behind and has won the Americans a free hit. And that's a bit of clever gamesmanship from the youngster, Ollie Parent, as he slowed down back into Friedley, and Friedley couldn't help but make contact.
He was facing 1-on-3 range. There's nothing he was going to be able to do when he got down there. So what you're looking at is a situation where he's going to slow down, take the free hit. The U.S. is still a man down, so well, you might have been stop and go. There's been a penalty. Incorrect distance.
So, Brian, let's explain the incorrect distance rule as far as floorball is concerned. So, on a free hit, you have to be at least 3 meters away. Usually, they would like you to be 3 meters away. Generally, the incorrect distance you're within a couple of meters from the ball. In this circumstance, they elected to call the penalty on that free hit from the Americans. And it's one of those things where sometimes it can be a 2-minute penalty, and sometimes if there's a disadvantage to the team that's taken. The team that's taken has not off. It's been 17 to come up with the rest of them say, what? You can also play advantage on it, but in this circumstance, they played a little bit of advantage, deemed it to be a negative for the Americans. Now that free hit that was won by Harley looks even more loose, even we would say, after Freakley's penalty in distance ourselves. Comes out of the box. It's Vinikovsky. And what a save reaching back by Ethan Van Patten. Vinikovsky seeking redemption. Shoots and a save by Ethan Van Patten looking deep. Instead goes to Pakalane.
90 seconds left for the four.
Turnovers to Vinikovsky in those situations are a goal against 10. 65 game. Field up to Vinikovsky. Burns steps over the turns. It's now an American power play. Canadian box play officially down 20-2 in tonight's game. They off of a set play, a free. Guliana manages to kick the ball to Justin Knight. Stitches off the. Get a great chance to settle their own. About 30 seconds left on the man. And for one of those shot from back the lane, knocked down, rebound batted at by Understick, cycled by one. And this shot from David so also hits ball. 10 seconds remaining. Bennett, back the lane. Until Ingerston. David Anderson. Shot. Hanson. Now it's 5v5. The Americans over 1 on the short meeting. But they still have possession. Just a little over halfway through. Back to lane. Shot broke away from Pasha. Just got a piece of his jersey. Was able to deflect it wide. That's something to talk about being heavy shot. Yes. But it is also a club that breaks. Doesn't break as much as other teams, but breaks a lot of him. Sometimes things out of the pad. And that's something pick them up just a little second of being basically like 300 meters back to the shots off that pass. I didn't speak here. Great. Turns, smart contact. Logan. And run turns through the woods on the near side, although there wasn't much contact there. I think Burns was taking evasive action, and the boards gave this ball pushed up and out. It'll be a Canadian free. Burns got his hand up a little bit in the Bowden shoulder area, and Bowden took possession. There was, and they both knew what was coming in the corner, and as it turned out, the boards gave, and so no foul play. Boards trying to see parts, trying to minimize fancy these 3 players. It's one of those little battles within the game. Smile with sides. Crossman gets to field. Vinikovsky steps in. Doesn't take a bit funny now for the Canadians. So was at what point it had to be a little bit longer because he was playing a little bit aggressive in their pass. Move the slot. The Americans. Steps in, fires the shot, sit down, grabs the rebound. They talked about the open ball. Same. Fantastic save. Tip attempt inside for Barber. Burns drives through. Barber trying to drill up to the goal. He feels like he was hit in the head. And it's one of those things only the players will know. Mosier comes back, blocks Barber shot, blocks it again. And this is why Mosier is in the top 2 defensive pairs. The coaching staff celebrated in last night's game. He's got a 6th sense for blocking a shot. He was a hockey goalie in college. So he knows what he's doing and does it the way. Good portion of Mosier's 19 charges are here. In last night's contest, here is the events States and setting a good example for the time, getting back, blocking a couple of Barber shots, and now a whistle as Van Patten is tripped up on the far side. Things getting a bit chippy, physical.
So it's good units playing. Down 5, haven't scored. 57 minutes left in the cycle. All of the matters. So they're playing the same here.
I will say, Van Patten is not a type of player that goes down a little bit easily. And so I think that was probably a justified fall down, but also nothing too severe or seen to come out of that. To the Americans, as well as the adjudication of the officials, and honestly, the officials have tended to keep things in check kind of reasonably between these two. Even those moments, Machino steps up to center, dishes it up to the far side. Just so you know, Van Patten says no. Grabs the rebound and holds all circumstances that keeper you were playing as that players stick that's turned into the slot last movement. Made it perfect. So made the save. 6 minutes were score. This tournament, I wonder if that's starting to weigh on them mentally a little bit in terms of pressing, to physicality, shoulder to shoulder between Hayes Connor and Christian Walsh. The shoulder contact we said is okay up to a certain point. You can't push a player in that basis. And a steal off of the stick of Buck. Shot great save made by Kasha as he is tested in a difficult day for the second time in the second period. That first being the opportunity to set up on the first. Hey! Keaton scores a backhand volley. He scored in Belgium for the U.S. team, and he does it again here. Makes it a 5-1 game. After a loose ball in the middle, bounced up. He's got those long legs, so it takes a lot for him to commit a high stick and practice to his benefit.
He had the advantage of those high knees where the stick, where the high stick line is, and it's a real quick, easy, very just he was the best on it. Like start to finish for the last thing. Cause it needs 2 turnovers during the last one, and then hope and new life for the U.S. down full.
13 will be a little bit. It's his first. And that backhand volley is so tough to defend from the goalkeeper's perspective.
Partly because you have no idea where it's going.
Neither does the player.
Stick right. No idea where it's going. Where they're playing.
Since running an old route at 5v5 has ended. There's more than the first 5 things. But the in Salt Lake City in Utah place that went viral back in 2022. Flinched up Earth and Frederick shot back and that's a changes.
Switch to 1, 3 seconds. Like three Dayton U.S. players now playing that.
We talk about OS minutes. Students. Nikolsky bypasses parents. Nikolsky continues to run. Way it down by David Hutchinson. Comes out. Still wants to shoot. Cut down by Landon Van Batten. Now that shot against the grain by it's time. Set up on the other side of the adjusted. Was on to same thing. Nathan Woodell is excellent cycle. And 8 days is stay cycle. It's afraid to do that shot blocks in a corner by returns. And you tell the American bench a bit more animated than that goal. Some people been living with it. Said when the Americans fires a shot wide, Casino took no chances with that. Pulled that to the corner. He didn't honor was the only.
Well, that's good.
As a player, right by the base, because it gives you active bounces. They don't dead the check. Gives you passes. Ball plays off of the rear boards. Connor gets it about like his shot. The ball takes a goal. This is
You just got to.
that is the TP press defensive. They press so much when the Canadians behind them that the TP press but that's the season. Coaching staff will be with how they've done it is it creates a turnover. It's taken by interesting. And this chance, but now they'll change that. So you see the deep pressure, so to speak, of the defense, certainly the defense is possible turnover. And that Parents in the corner, Parents working hard against Bowden. Bowden has impacted upon it. The official says to continue to play after he was hit.
There's a rebound.
In.
And that's the kind of things that happen around the net when the ball gets in. Americans in by the net, have a position, and sometimes you just get a lucky bounce. You need that to go your way to win these kind of games.
We talked about the activity of the boards, and that's a great example of it. And this is why no shot from the point is a bad shot. In that circumstance, the shot coming from the point, sounding off of the boards, Perry there on the doorstep, he was being tied up, and he popped it in off of the leg of Contra and in. What is at the net and this off. And the official has the opportunity to go and go goal if he feels like it crossed into the net from outside the lake. But because put it in upper pressure, the whip is and it stands as a goal. It's going to Canada still up, but
90 seconds to go
to make some noise.
It's a tie in the period. So it's a huge close to a win for the Americans right now hanging with Canada for a period.
It's gotten much lower here to the extent. It's nice, right? Off, I didn't say go through the same cultural. It's okay. One potential player gets his first team push. It's in 23, the NFL 23 against the Netherlands at the 23 playoffs.
I agree. Everybody has time. Both in half time.
That is a great thing. Fix it. 15 seconds remaining in the second. It's deflected away. Baha behind. Kicked it on the corner. Addington gets tied up in the middle. They say incidental contact. Lumiala off and running. Here's Spiegel across. Lumiala shot. That's hard, but 2 seconds remaining in the second period. Addington feels as though he was stationed. Such that he didn't get together this ball, but this was why they created a lot of positives for the Americans, are the ones that got the first wall on the period. And suddenly the NHL, it's fine, they still have a 3-goal lead. They look a lot intimidating. The last time I had second period.
Yeah, and I would say right now
Down you lost.
for every team, right, that's very, they go quick, well,
Well, a lot of home situations that they need a little more support. You don't have much of a chance to practice with the national team. Don't get a lot of chance to practice 6-on-5. You don't get a lot of chance to practice bowling full situation. Teams, generally speaking, although Canada does have gathered team, training camps all that often, so that's going to come into play too. Just like the U.S. hasn't practiced a ton of 6-on-5 situations, you don't know how much the Canadians have practiced those same situations defensively.
And Canada has the same challenge as the U.S., right? There's youth in the country, the players are spread all over the country. Yeah, get together for a younger federation or a newer federation, very hard to put together. It's expensive. Takes a while. So those are little things. It's very
Stage 8, the United States is open. Spell it, almost to so you have minutes to set your America's application 2026. Back in Georgetown, Texas, the men's championships America's qualification 2026. The all-important third period is upon us. The score 5 in their home ends with black shorts, and the United States 2 in their road whites. This game being played in the United States, but the teams switch off who is home and who is away. As we discussed in your broadcast, makes a difference as far as baseball selection is concerned. So this is the United States' one road game of this 3-game set. Canada won 13-1 last night. This looks like a different American team, and they've got 20 minutes to battle for their lives, so to speak, because they have to win tonight if they're to retain a chance of going to the Men's World Floorball Championships in 2026.
Yeah. They don't. It's a practice game. It's a friendly. It'll still count on the qualification WFCQ stats with players, but beyond that, Canada will be going to.
He's Brian Radical. I'm Trent Kling. We've got Jeff Strick on the controls this evening, and the face-off won by Canada to open third period. Justin Knight talked so glowingly about to this. But honestly, this game could be a lot closer if not for the defensive play for us to. Field comes in front of his. And Pat knocks it away from field momentarily. Barber regained. And it's Vitikoski. Couple of tallies for the rest of the qualifier. Knight, Vitikoski. Inside look for Lumiello. Fires it high. Good chance for Canada. They went right down the seam. The coaching staff for the United States talked about in the open. They want to play tougher in the middle of the floor. I'm going to be happy about that last play. And ultimately, if they were the Americans, it comes to nothing. Bob ahead. The second line looks the same for the Americans as it did in the second period. Started up with some 2 D lines. They've moved now to just 2 forward lines and 2 B lines. They're trying to back into this game. Connor Spence within the home wing. Plays it to Moser. No on the far side, Addington. It's met by Jetta. It's turned over. Mahoney takes it. Keen Addington, one of the goal scorers. The second. Jetta. At the floor, gets by the foot of Reed Hearns, but it also gets by the foot of Matt Smith, who was trying to collect it. Now those two go to battle in the corner. And as we talked about in the second, they've seen many a board battle in their time playing for their respective countries. Friedley loses it. Bahabe recollects. Now Mosier calmly to Hearns. The Americans will get a change on the fly. The 2 deep play back at the as the sneak out. First time that for the US. Aaron finds Angerstig. That shot whizzes behind of the net. Landon Van Patten grabs the rebound. The shot from Lucas Pakalane was blocked. The stick goes flying for Friedley, and the shot at the other end for Mahoney is saved easily by Ethan Van. Landon Van Patten spins, fires a shot, that just misses. Stick to the point. David Hansen finds himself a little bit of room by backtracking and then feeds to Pakalane. That ball bounces and takes maybe more of a hop than he expected. He has a laugh with Vitikoski about it, and it's turned back to the Canadians. Mr. Knight. Give it a go with Field. On the near wing, another shot through a screen. It's in. Vitikoski.
Through screen means just Canadian players got great front of the man as he moves hard.
Vitikoski with that flyby screen, and those flashing screens so difficult for a goalkeeper. Takes your eyes off of the ball. By the time you get it back on the ball, not enough time to make the save. Great play between Lumiala and Vidakovsky. That's Lumiala's second goal of the game. He had one last night as well. Brings his total to 3 now. Qualifier, and that is a huge goal. The Americans, all the momentum going into the first intermission. The Canadians get goal number 1 to start your third period. It's now 6-2, and the hill starts to become once again like a mountain for the United States as they try to climb back in this one.
Goal 17. Not impossible.
Ridley shot blocked off a stick. Canadians. Smith stands over it. Took back by Friedley. Shane Hogan. To Jets. Changes with Jetta. Smith looks into the slot area. Mahoney. Mahoney spinning, turning. Was it through the low slot area? And it's recovered by the Americans. Here's Bahaba. Joaquin Addington spins. Wanted to shoot. Instead gives it to Connor. His shot. Playing with his stick. And it's recovered by Friedley. But only for a moment. Connor came back on the back check to poke the ball away. And they'll call a push. Connor is none too happy about that circumstance. And you wonder if the Americans, they might talk to this line a little bit about shooting earlier in that possession.
There were opportunities there. It's good to be patient. Hard to be patient.
Should mention Cedric Benefit is not returning for the Canadians after a big down contact between King and Addington. Words up the play and was penalized. And instead it's Patrick Mahoney from the element. The shot goes just wide of the net. They've had a few shots that have missed by a whisper. That one missed by maybe a foot. This way to Landon Van Patten. Inside, Ollie Parent turns back to Landon Van Patten. Wanted a shot, but it's poked off with the stick by Tristan Walsh. It's a foot race between Daly and Pakalain, and a whistle, and it'll be a Canadian free hit. The Canadians wanted a 2-minute penalty, won't get it, and the third line comes back off for Team Canada.
It's hard to give it 2 minute penalty. Two players racing for it. That's just hit some contact. There was nothing there.
And we should mention, because Patrick Mahoney has been elevated to the second line with Grenapin out, it has meant that Cam Buck has stepped up onto the third line for the Canadians. Saw quite a bit from him last night's game. He is also a Canadian men's national team mainstay. Knight turning with it. Puts up the middle, tries to ditch it off at the last moment, but it's knocked away. Mosier touches it onto Bahave. Back comes to Reed Hurts. There's been much in the way of transition opportunities. Time for game. Addington got his goal on the defensive end. There hasn't really been a lot to speak of. It's 2-on-1 or 3-on-2. Was a nifty play by Field even to get it to Vidakovsky. Now Lumiala, great save by Ethan Van Patten. And then Latt with another one. I cannot stress how hard each one of those saves is with those shots around the helmet. There's your transition opportunity. Addington now shut down. 2 excellent saves by Christoph Koschuk. Vidakovsky's shot. That didn't miss by much on the far post. Two excellent chances in either end. Credit Derek Mosier also for that pass up to Keith Addington. Mosier's had himself a couple of excellent games. Addington comes in, is waving at the stick of Mahoney. Mahoney's able to get by. Now slows things down. He'll turn it over. Here's Connor. Connor quickly converged upon. Wins the ball from a couple of Canadians. And now there's contact. Connor goes over. And now there's pushing and shoving. and Connor's going to get 2.
It's going to be a 10-minute misconduct. He made the signal. It's going to be a 2 to 10.
And that's a tough play because you understand this is an emotionally charged game, of course. And you go basically 1-on-3. Connor didn't have a teammate to help him out against the boards. And you think that you've won the ball, and then there's that shoulder-to-shoulder contact. The official said, hey, shoulder-to-shoulder contact, play on, continue. Connor went over the boards. He felt like there should have been a call there. Now, the Americans have, I was going to say, the Americans have 5 players out. It should be a box play. Reed Hearns. We get another look at the American box play. Canada's power play is 1-2. They scored on a set play, then had another power play nullified by a penalty. Incorrect distance. Bidakovsky slides in. Shot blocked by Angerstig. Parent wins the ball on the near side. Angerstig speeds in. Angerstig pulls back against a trio of Canadian defenders, but it ends up on the stick of Bidakovsky. So Isaac Angerstig able to fill off about 10 seconds with his work, and now Parent once again gets tied up with Bidakovsky, and once again creating havoc for this Canadian power play. Bidakovsky to the far side. Here's Smith. Smith waved at by Ollie Parent. Go back to Bidakovsky. Looks like he wants to shoot. Go back against the grain to Smith, and his attempt to Mahoney in the high slot area pops off of his stick and out. Mahoney playing that bumper position on the power play. Did a great job making space for himself, and Smith found him for the ball bounce. And a good play for the Canadians goes for naught.
And it looks like there's only going to be 2 minutes of time. There's nobody else in the box. So because of that, there's nobody else in the box. So that means it's not a 2+ time. I can see the penalty.
Steals it away from Mosier. Mosier and Addington working along the near boards, but it's taken by Smith. Smith back behind the net. Hearns comes there to meet him, and Mosier clears up, but not out. Bidakovsky bypasses Addington. The ball shot blocked by Bahamae. The Canadians will reset freely to the far side. Smith exchanges with Bidakovsky. Here's Smith inside. Bidakovsky wants an attempt. That shot stopped by Ethan Van Patten. I think the second save might have been on his own man. And now here's Keane Addington. Fires a shot. It's off the leg of Creedley. Back away or off to the races is Matt Smith. Bidakovsky cross court for Barber. It's taken by Mosier. Mosier shielding the ball away from Smith, and a great move by Derek Mosier on the back end.
U.S. back to full strength.
And he'll get a free hit after Mosier's superlative play on the end boards. And when you're talking about players of the game for the United States, Addington obviously has one of the goals. Parent has another. But Derek Mosier, just like Justin Knight, has been able to settle things down defensively for the Americans and create a lot of transition area opportunities. Don't forget the double block we had on Bidakovsky coming back in the back check format. Hunsberger out there with the third line for him. That oftentimes this is something you'll see in floorball players, teams coming up with the third line after a power play to give the better players a chance to rest. And Tristan Wolf able to recollect for the Canadians. Chicago Lane steals it on the boards. A nifty move and feed forward for Landon Van Patten. A bit too far for Van Patten. He can stick on, but he's able to race it down as he goes in with Hunsberger and a little extra curriculars there. The Americans call and won't get it. It'll be a Canadian free hit. Van Patten, for his part, pops right back up. And this is something that I noticed in that second period altercation with Matt Smith. He popped right back up, looks at the official, okay, no call, I'm going to get back in the play. And that really shows maturity once again beyond this era. He's just 18 years old and getting that. Have something special. Pass on to Lumiala. The shot stopped by Ethan Van Patten. I want to give a call to kind of the other side of this as well, because Alex Field is much the same player for Canada. It's something that I've noticed anytime you play Alex Field. He's not working at the officials' goals or anything. Those moments. There's a hard contact. He doesn't get the benefit of the penalty box right now. Field is the type of guy that collects all the water bottles out of the press, make sure the found it. And did that with the U19s, flew into the city and talked on with the chief manager of the Wilson after last night's game. And she said, he is such a, but always so little. He's a wonder just found the field. And it shows because he's been playing the first line in this qualification. So do want to give him a shout out as well. We're talking about the American young players that are stand up gesturing. Canada's got a few on their side as well. To get Justin Knight creates a turnover. Canada will get possession. They'll change on the fly. Canadians are in no hurry. We said a little bit idling check. That meant this morning. Could create potential transition opportunities, and now Landon Van Patten comes in, turns, fires, just misses on the near side. Van Patten steals it once again behind the net, but Jetta takes it back over. Jetta has Engerstig on him. Engerstig battling and contact on the far boards will result in a free hit point to the Canadians. We mentioned coming into this period, you haven't seen a lot of transition opportunities for the Americans. They've had it in this period, but have been unable to back Christoph Oshin. Yep. Smith. Is out there for the Americans against the Canadian second level. Lane plays without his stick for a bit, but the whistle blew beforehand, and that bailed the Americans out. Playing without your stick and floorball can be on the referee's discretion, a 2-minute penalty. The Canadians were shouting. Whistle blew prior to Lane to be kicked out. And he puts it high. It was deflected by Kasha, I think, off of his mask.
Good attempt by Parent. No. But starting to dump balls on net. It's going to have dump balls on the net. Cross.
Chino finds Oni. Oni's shot. Oh, that was a good release from Bertrand. In this fire so far, actually, fire so far. That time, was enough to reverse. It's not reflected though. He'll be at the begin 3A. Second line for the Americans and against the third line for Canada. Buck stands over the board. Gives to Daly. Is it not by Barnes? Current active stick feeds forward. Ian Addington gets there first. Puts it up about it and out of bounds. It'll be fed back in by Ian Addington on the pin.
A little bit of region madness.
Bit of urgency now showing in the Americans game. Take the hits and getting to Stay forever. They're behind the gate. Those two will like tries to scamper up the left side boards. I'm trying to give Moser something to pass, maybe a pass out, but just to come back. Gives to Connor. Connor has it poked out from underneath his stick by Lunsberger, whose shot was blocked into it by Moons. Contact along the far side. Walson on it, other than a free. Canadians will change. Go. Their mission island to match the Americans most reckless 20. Again, this is a game that's to stay in his three-game series. They'll play the third game to one regardless.
But here,
Matters how meaningful that game is. The results of this game. Play Parent off to the races now. Parent bypassing 9. Parent inside. Oh, the save!
right, save.
That was simply reaction and acrobatics by Kasha to get that shot with his right foot off the stick of Angerstick. And now Lumiola comes back. His shot breaks the stick of Angerstick. As they come to the bench, Angerstick frustrated and understandably so. What a play set up by Ollie Parent there. And with 6 minutes to go in the third period, Brian, hopefully thinking about player of the game, I think Ollie Parent and Derek Mosher would probably be my two candidates for the Americans.
There's a rebound off the back post. Came off the side of Van Catten's leg. That's going to be tough to recover. Now you got a minute. It's tough, man. That's the kind that just puts a tag. I'm going back. I mean, you look at what might have said Gretapen until he got hurt when he was playing tonight. But, you know, we're watching everybody compare. Vitosky, actually, right? So I really think you've got some good candidates on this, right? And Logan, someone will end up presenting it here.
I think my Canadian vote is Justin. I think the 7 partisans he's provided for Canada. He snuffed out a lot of secondary transition opportunities for the Americans. And anytime he gets the ball and brings it to the back, it ends up in some kind of offense. So he would be my guy. I'm a fan of kind of the unsung heroes as well. So it would be tough on giving it to any of those three. But Busty, Justin, shot outside, kept it, is not bad. Even getting it then at his mouth. The knee of the Van Patten Mosher bringing it up the floor and practically fall on made from it. Against Mahoney. Give the ball back to the Americans. The Americans continue to look just 2 lines here, trying to get back into this.
And they're going to call timeout.
The Americans wanted a timeout there. Isaac Angerstick was voted as the second captain for the team. Nicola Bahabai as their regular captain for signal team. So, such a time up. 7. I think for the Americans, it's certainly step by step, brick by brick, so to speak, as the great filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein once said. But for the Canadians also, this has been a different kind of game for them. And I think they should also be heartened by the fact that they can play a tight check-in game like what we've done here. The Americans pulled up within the distance. They can play a tight check-in game and still manage to build 5-goal lead. Whereas last night was much more back and forth, especially for the first 2 periods. Pitakowski plays a bit towards the empty line. He's partially deflected by States 16 to Canada's 5. Ian Meyer passed through the slot area. Parents was in on the parents. He'll be fouled just tonight.
And Lumiano, that was the problem.
And the official, once again, a lot of preventative officiating. Talks to the players before it gets too bad. They blow the play dead. They say, hey, you two, be careful. Here's what I want to see out of the both of you over the next little bit.
Right there on top.
Parents off of the play. Here's Pakalane. Meyer We've mentioned his shot throughout the course of the last few days. Takes one, it's blocked into the air, and Alex Field gets into David Hansen in an attempt for the loose ball.
They haven't had the stand of opportunity. Canada's not making much of a wall, so what they're going to do.
Well, they managed to get the block anyway. Hansen fires it into the leg of a Canadian player. Vidakovsky turns it over to Parent, but Knight's there once again to snuff out the American attack.
Really, really impressive.
Lumiala takes it back onto Field. And we should mention Field got credit for that last Canadian goal. So that is his first of the night, his second of this series. Jetson. That's something you will do with about 4 minutes left. You'll go offense, defense with your keeper. With the Canadian free hit, they'll keep Van Patten in the cage for the time being. Tristan Walsh goes in. One-on-one against Derek Moser. Walsh turns away with the ball, tries the quick wrap. Van Patten says, no, thank you, and returns it back from whence it came. This ball off an American foot and out off of the stick of Friedley. 3:27 now remaining in the third period. You know, if you're the Americans, obviously, things are looking more and more bleak in terms of winning this game. Because you want to play in terms of 30-minute segments. So if you get a goal in the next 30 minutes, divide up the game in that way. Friedley, pounded by Hearns. They'll go to the corner, looking for some safety provided by the boards there. Walsh manages to touch it away to Smith. Smith in the near corner. Turns, looks, surveys, takes the easy pass to Friedley. Friedley hasn't been hurt much from offensively tonight after having such an excellent game yesterday with second assist.
Well, Friedley had more than just one.
Jetson took down a great play by Van Patten after a quick pass from Friedley over to Jetson. And now Van Patten will sub out extra attacker on for the U.S. And once again, they bring out Ian Meyer to make use of his shot. Hansen up with it. Ollie Parent tried to bypass Jetta. Jetta gets in there physically. Walsh attempted a bid towards the open net. Changed well out of the changing area. I don't think the officials saw it. Here's Meyer's shot. Hits bodies in front. Yeah, he basically changed it at the Secretariat desk there. Kashino puts it in deep. Oh, dangerous play. A little bit of a mix-up as they were trying to bring Ethan Van Patten back on, and now they'll bring Ethan Van Patten back off. There was some miscommunication there for the Americans. Meyer steps back on. 2 minutes now in the third period. Thank you for your work, Brian. Looking forward to having you present the players of the game. There's Ian Meyer. Brings it up the right-hand side. Meyer fires a shot that's deflected in front. Might have gone off the stick of Parent. Pasha grabs the loose ball. Pasha looks at the empty net, but a great play by Pakalane. Turns it back to David Hansen. Looking forward for Ollie Parent. Here's Vidakovsky. He is played on by Lucas Pakalane. Running back into the cage is Ethan Van Patten, and Pakalane will take it. But the Americans turn it over. Ethan Van Patten running back towards the cage. Can't get there in time as Vidakovsky gets the assist from Field and scores. All intents and purposes should pretty much end it here. 8-2 the score. The Canadians on top. And Vidakovsky adds another goal to his team leading point total. The Americans, as Brian has mentioned throughout the course of this broadcast, have played a much tighter game, a much closer game. And again, it was 5-2 coming into this period. We knew they would take 2 extra chances. But let's give Gustav Kasha some credit. The Americans, number of transition opportunities, a couple of rebound opportunities. Pasha has been there to shut them down in the third period. Has given his team some breathing room. Canada made it 6-2 early on in this period. And with Pasha's saves, they were able to keep it a score game until getting a late goal from Alex Field and now the 18-hitter from Valtteri Vidakovsky. Meyer to Hearns. Hearns running into the offensive end. Spins around Bowman. Walsh onto Mahoney. Mahoney's shot is knocked down by Keene Addington as Ethan Van Patten was running back into the goaltender area to try and make the save. But a nice play by Keene Addington to be back and be ready to block the shot. 55 seconds remaining now in the third period. Meyer back out as the extra attacker. Meyer. Hanson. Back it comes to Meyer. Far away. Pakalane. Manson. Much more low for the Americans just yet as they play 6-on-5 with the goalie pulled. Meyer's shot is blocked by Mahoney up high. Addington goes in against Bowden. It's turned over to Engerstig. Looks in front for Connor, but that pass knocked away. Tristan Walsh comes away with it, and the captain for Canada will try to salt this game by getting it to Bowden, who once again turns it over to Addington. Back it comes to Connor in front. The look to Engerstig, and that's knocked away by Walsh. Connor's pass across, deflected by Mahoney. Ethan Van Patten back in the cage for the Americans. Engerstig plays to Connor. Connor tips it over a stick. Connor fires. Kasha the save. Rebound and another save by Christoph Kasha. And that will ensure the Canadian 8-2 victory. And Christoph Kasha in this series has not been counted upon all that often. He's made a few good saves here and there, but hadn't really been tested. Here in the third period, he was tested every which way. Odd man rushes, breakaways, on wraparound attempts, on rebound shots, and he was equal to the task. Kasha, perhaps his best period of the series so far, and a big reason why the Canadians able to hold on to win it, too, despite taking the Americans' best shot. For the Americans, once again, the goal scorers, Oliver Parents, getting the second goal. The first goal tonight scored by Keene. Nice backhand volley after creating a turnover in front of the Canadians. They once again get a big night from Q Lamiola. Valtteri Pitpuski offensively. Alex Field also got an assist. And Christoph Pasha came up with some saves in the period. First inning. But let's go down to the court microphone for the presentation of today's player of the match.
Final score of Team Benedict in percent 2. The best player award will be presented by the president of the Leaders of Prevention Drive in the Running Club. Best player for Team USA, number 15, Oliver Parry. Best player for Team Canada, number 67, Andrew Williams.
So we have our answers as to who the players of the game were. And we mentioned several candidates. Two of them didn't player of the game honor. Oliver Parent, for the United States, created a lot of havoc, especially for the U.S. box play. A big reason why the U.S. box play was able to go 2 for 3 in tonight's game. The Canadians, Itu Lumiama, managed the first goal for Canada. Also grabbed the goal later on in the contest. 8-2, the victory for the Canadians. They have now their berth in the Men's World Championships 2026. So they move on and won the first 2 games of this best of series. The third game coming up tomorrow, that will still be played. Even though we know who is going through the Men's World Championships, they switched the America's qualification to the best of 3 series 2 years back. After a couple of years of 2 games. And we saw that play into how kind of it was 2022. Games were decided for Texas. But in this circumstance, will not earn the total goals, will come into it because it's a fantastic Canadians won last night decisively 13-1. Win tonight 8-2 was a much harder fought event that didn't include the Americans in this. The Americans staged a comeback at the second. Couple of people stepping 5-2 get Canada scores 3 in the third period. So I'm right for the same soul until the more and another central time 13 or 6 of this series. Have a great evening and congratulations to Team Canada.